This is the number one mistake that we see agents make all the time. You can't comp out a home until you see the home.
Welcome back to the Daily List Report. We've got another great show for you today. As you saw, we've got Mark Choey back on the show. He's been with us a couple times. We did an episode called Innovating During Economic Downturns and Building Your Brand Through Focus. Really, really great advice. You heard from him before, right? He was one of the founders of Climb Real Estate in San Francisco, a really tech-forward brokerage. He was the number 2 condo salesperson in all of San Francisco. Sold Climb to NRT and is off on a wonderful new adventure, which is called Highnote. And we're going to talk more about that in just a moment. We've got links below to Highnote, so definitely check that out. It is a way to win more business from the leads that you're getting. And again, we're going to talk about some best practices today. And of course, his Instagram is @MarkChoey, so definitely check him out. He's got a great life, great family, really passionate about real estate, and lots that we can all learn from him. So anyways, enough about me, enough about that. Let's bring him on the show. Without further ado, Mark, welcome back to the show.
What's up, Randy? How's it going?
Excellent, excellent. It's been too long, Mark. We haven't had you on the show in months, so that's way too long.
It's been a while. Luckily, we all know where everyone is.
It's true. It's true. We're in the same spot we were last time we recorded,
Exactly.
as a fact.
Exactly.
You know, Mark, it's been a while since you've been on, like I said. So why don't you give our agentpreneurs out there just a quick background bio? Just tell them who you are and tell them what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm a real estate nerd. I've been a real estate agent since 2006. I was formerly a computer guy in the technical field, electrical and computer engineering, and then I decided to become a real estate agent. That's another story for another time. But, we quickly figured out how to, I don't want to say hack the system, but figure out good ways of growing our business fast. And we built a brokerage, Climb Real Estate, and it got a lot of notoriety and a lot of a reputation for being an innovative brand, innovative brokerage. We grew it to a top 250 brokerage in 5 years in San Francisco, and we were purchased by Realogy, or NRT's. NRT was under Realogy, and the promise was a Climb brokerage in every city in the country. Yeah, that was the promise. But plans changed, and life moves on. Realogy had other issues to deal with, but Climb, we were just so close. But Climb, we partnered with Realogy at the time to really fulfill our vision of seeing Climb nationwide and really helping agents out with our technology and our training, etc. After that happened, I've decided to start a new software company to build things that we've learned, or share our wisdom and share our techniques with the rest of the agents in the country. And we launched last year in a beta format. So we've had hundreds of agents on the platform for about a year now, and winning business. And it's a really different tool. It's an innovative tool. We feel it simplifies the whole sales pitch, this whole sales pitch workflow that every agent needs to go through, or has to go through, and they all struggle with it. And the workflow is, you get a lead, it's a buyer or a seller, and you have to convert that lead.
Yep.
And that lead is being shopped to several other agents potentially, right? That lead is interviewing other agents, or they came on through a site like Zillow. And so you were up against several other agents at the same time. So speed and quality of your pitch is everything, and stressful. It's a stressful time. So, I've never found a tool that could address this. So I decided to build it. And
That's awesome.
and we're going to be, launching a wider announcement in February. So, this is a precursor to that announcement, so to speak.
That's awesome. That's awesome,
Yep.
Mark. Well, thanks for being here today. I know we want to talk about, we'll deep dive a little bit, like you said, on why you started this company and this sort of point where I think you talk a lot about workflow, right? And I think workflow is really important, right, as you build process and structure around best practices for converting these leads. And what's really interesting, what comes to mind, Mark, is that, when we talked before, right, when you started Climb, it was just right at the bust, right? This is '07, right?
'09.
Oh nine, sorry.
'09.
That's right. It was in the midst of the bust, and we talked about all this crazy advertising stuff that you did. And so starting this company when we've had an incredible real estate market, it's an interesting contrast, isn't it? Do you think about approaching it any differently as a result?
No, you have to ride the waves as they come. And we rode the wave, an initial wave that led to the crash. So from 2005 to 2009 was a big wave.
Yeah.
And, it ended around 2009, 2010. We launched our brokerage in 2010. So, I think you just have to go with the times, and real estate's cyclical. There's going to be times of boom and times of bust. Right now we're in a massive boom, and it's just caused by unnatural things like a pandemic and all kinds of things. But
Yeah.
So you need to really, things don't change. You just need to figure out how to take advantage of the times that you have, and the wave that's in now, you need to ride it. And that wave is not going to end forever. I'm not going to continue forever. So
Sure.
you
Absolutely.
have to prepare, and you have to build a business that sustains those waves, right?
Absolutely.
And we're riding a very big one now, and you just have to enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so let's dive into the topic of the day. So let's give a little bit of background here, right? So all of you listening right now, right, you are going on your quote unquote sales pitches, right? You're getting a lead wherever you're getting it, and you're showing up to a listing presentation or a buyer presentation. And Mark has spent some time sort of studying this and learning some best practices around this, and actually has some data to share. So Mark, why don't we set it up there? Why don't we talk about the problem that we're trying to address and some of the tips and best practices we want to reveal around it?
Yeah, absolutely. So you get a buyer lead, you get a seller lead. Let's talk about the seller lead. The seller lead, he's looking to sell his home or her home, and they want to interview agents, and you're one of the short list, right? Very, very rarely are you the only one, right? The only time you're the only one is maybe a referral from a trusted friend or something like that, and then they don't interview anyone else. But that's wishful thinking, because you're always up against someone else. So now you need to get back to them as soon as possible. And studies show that speed of response is everything. And very often these leads only talk to one person. And I forget the number, but it's something huge, like 80% of, sellers eventually only talk to one agent.
It's crazy, right?
It's
I'm sorry.
crazy.
I just don't understand it for such a big decision, but you're right. I think it's around 80%. It's crazy.
It's a lot, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. We won't get into that, but it's so the person they talk to first is probably the one charming them, right? Or really selling them, and then the seller says, okay, I don't need to talk to anyone else, I'm taken care of. So the problem is that you have a listing presentation somewhere in some PDF or some PowerPoint format or some keynote that needs to be updated, and it desperately needs to be updated because it's never perfect. It's doesn't look good. There's typos. There's all kinds of things wrong with it. And you also have other things you want to share. You have videos. You have websites. You have things that need to be shared, and you have maybe 15 things you want to share with them. But you can't get it into one document. And so what you do is you end up throwing it into an email. And the email is, hi, nice to meet you. Here's about me, blah, 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 blah. Here's more about me in this link and in this link and in this attachment and this attachment and that attachment. And then you send it off, and okay, maybe you get a response, maybe you don't. You have to get on the phone with them. Hey, did you read the stuff I sent you? Yeah, I saw it. It looks great. Let's talk.
Yep.
But you really don't know. You don't know what they looked at. You don't know when they looked at it. You don't know what they've been reading, what they haven't been reading. And then your presentation looks terrible now. What used to be this well-designed PDF or PowerPoint is fragmented up into a whole bunch of different links, different documents in an ugly email. So we solved that problem by allowing you to build a new one with Highnote quickly and deliver it. When you deliver it, you get analytics. You get analytics that tell you what the reader is reading and what they're not reading. And very powerful agents are, saying that it's a game changer, it's a door opener, it's a great way for, agents to set themselves apart, make a great first impression. And then when you have the conversation or you meet them in person, or you see the home, you're able to close the deal easier because you made such a great first impression. And in sales, first impressions are everything, right? They are everything. You can't send them something ugly, and you can't be late with it. And so the other problem that we're solving is for a brokerage owner or a team. How do you support the agent in their need to turn around something really impressive and quickly? And usually the solution is you try to find some software, which doesn't really exist today, or you hire more people to turn it around, to build custom presentations for agents. But they can't do it at scale. They can't do it effectively and efficiently. And you can't really build something beautiful in such a quick amount of time, customized for that seller. So this is the issue we're trying to solve. How do you close business in a better way? And this is that's what we've been working on.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's a great problem to solve. Now, let's talk about some of what you learned, Mark. Right? So you've been running this for a while with, you said, hundreds of agents, right, to learn and refine the product, which is how you start any successful business. But you've learned some things, right? You've learned about which things, because of the analytics that you have, you've learned about which things resonate more than others. So let's talk a little bit of that. Let's talk a little bit about that data, Mark.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So, what we've been, could I share my screen at this point or?
Absolutely. Yeah, please do.
All right, great. So this is sort of the tool. This is an example of a listing presentation that you may send off. This one is called the pre-listing presentation, and we'll get to that in a second if people don't understand what that is. But effectively, a pre-listing presentation is what you send before you meet them, and it's the brochure that you're sending, and it really has to be impactful because multiple people are sending things out, and so you need to be better. You need to look better. The reader needs to have a better experience. So here, and also you haven't met them, so they don't know who you are. And so this presentation is going to be about you, right? A lot about you. Like, okay, this is you as an agent. This is my team. This is more about me. This is my brokerage. This is more about my brokerage. This is why my brokerage. These are my services. These are my listings, my current listings. Here's videos, here's Matterports, here's walkthroughs. This is why we're great for your area, because we know your area. This is a marketing timeline. This is what happens when we sell your home. This is a title report. This is basically what we found in public records and what everyone can see about your home, and more process documents here. Here's escrow. Here's what happens in escrow. What's the value of your home? You show a sample listing agreement, right? And the reason why is you want to tell them, hey, look, if we are going to sell your home, you need to sign this. We need to come to an agreement about this. We include this because people can see, the agents see whether the seller is reading this or not. If they're reading this, they're like, wow, they're so serious about working with me. They're actually reading the legal document. So that's very powerful. And then more reviews, etc. There's a section here that talk about the capabilities. This is the power of our brokerage. This is our integrated marketing. Here's social media. Here's what we do to sell your home the best. And so this is the example of what gets sent out for a listing presentation. What we find is, let me quiz you. What do you think is the most read section of these sections here, Randy. I'll flip it around and ask you a question.
On
So you have
the, oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, no. So you have basically the choices are agent profile about you, about your brokerage, seller capabilities, like what we do to sell your home, and then sample marketing, right? Listing agreement, process documents, reviews, et cetera. What would you guess to think would be the best or the most read sort of sections here?
Man, was proof of production on that list? Is that in the about me? Like how much I've
That would be
sold?
about me. Yeah, that
Okay,
would
I'm
be
gonna guess
about
about
me.
me then. Anything to do with proof of production would be my guess.
Yeah. So it's interesting. In our study, we did a 1 month study last year in October. All their presentations went through our system. We looked at them anonymously and we kind of ranked the sections. So the most read categories were selling capabilities. And that would include things like the timeline, what does the brokerage, and how you market it, what you do, like how you market the property, how you sell the property. That's number one. Number
Interesting.
two is sample marketing. And they would look at sample marketing of other properties that you're selling or have sold in the past. And it could be that this is ranked by time as well. So it could be that, hey, a video takes longer, right, to go through. Or maybe you're walking through a Matterport and you're spending a lot of time checking out the home. The other one is, explanations for the seller. Like, oh, this is how you sell a home. The seller guide to selling a home. Then number four, what you're saying about the agent.
Right.
So yes,
Interesting.
you do look at the agent, but they spend a lot less time on that. And then, number five
Well,
is
real quick,
agent pro.
Mark, let me ask you a question though on that. Maybe
Yep.
that speaks to something else, which is that the case because at this point they've already done that homework? In other words, they already vetted you before they invited you in. Maybe that's
It,
why.
it could be, but and then I think a deeper dive need to be made to see, hey, was this a cold lead?
Right.
Or was this a referred lead? Like, was this a Zillow lead
Yeah.
where you're getting sent off to 3 or 4 people, etc. So
Yeah,
there are
absolutely.
times in some of the presentations where we notice where the agent's being looked at the most, and then they're going into the seller capabilities and sample marketing, etc. But on
Yeah,
average, this is what we're finding,
that makes sense.
and we're finding that about the agent was very highly rated. CMA and comps were also very high, obviously, about as much as the agent, seeing the agent. And the sections that weren't read were contact us. That doesn't make a lot of sense for a seller to check on when they already know how to contact you. A map. Some people put a map, right?
Right.
No one looks at that. They know where they live. AVMs. So automated valuation, and things like Zestimates and things like that. Oh, sorry, I kind of switched screens here. Do you still see my screen?
Yep, still see the least read sections.
Got it. COVID related types of stuff. Um, yeah, and let's see what else. Then there are lender referrals, property profiles, vendor referrals too. So something like, here's my photographer, et cetera. And then property profiles like tax records information, market or neighborhood reports are not read a lot. And interestingly, about the team and brokerage are not read a lot either. They don't really care about the team and brokerage. They just care about you, what you're going to do, how you sell your home, the homes, what you've done in the past, with the sample marketing, for example,
Yeah.
and price, right? Price. And sometimes with the tool, you can see that they only look at the price. And what does that tell you? If you send a listing presentation and they go straight to the price and that's the only thing they look at.
Yeah.
Well, in our world, what that means is they're shopping you. They're shopping what you think the home is worth, and they're not a serious lead, right? So that's one telltale sign of the power of the tool and how you can use it to win more business.
Really interesting.
Yep.
Mark, over all the years that I've been in this business from a technology standpoint, it never ceases to amaze me how much work an agent puts into their listing presentation, right? And to your point, right? Like sometimes I see them as binders and they have printouts and little, like they put the pages in these little covers and they have little sections to them, or maybe
Yep.
they'll do it on an iPad. It's just interesting, right? Like, I'm just curious to get your take on that, right? It's something that agents take so much pride in, and they vary, right? They're not sort of out of the box, I don't know why. I've always found that fascinating how
Yeah,
custom they
it's
are.
the what we find, and being a brokerage owner and an agent for years, is it is the one of the main jobs you have is winning the deal.
Right.
And your real job is a fiduciary to the seller or the client, right? And that
Yes.
means servicing your client. Um, that's obviously your main job, but let's be real. You need to win business, and if you don't win business, um, you're not an agent, obviously. So they spend a lot of time, and there's so many different ways of skinning this cat. Printing things out and delivering them is obviously, it still works, but it's
Yeah.
in a different time now, where sending a binder in is maybe not the smartest thing to do all the time. It could be good, but digital, you need to have a digital presence
Yeah.
today, right? And people are sending in very impactful presentations remotely now, digitally. I would do both. Personally, I would print one out if that's what the market expects, deliver it, as well as send a digital one. You have to do more and go above and beyond what the seller is expecting, and not only what the seller's expecting, but what other agents are doing.
Right.
So I would do something light, like nothing custom, but send something in, that they, because it's all about touch points. It's about how many times you're hitting them up, right? They might have gotten your postcard, then great, they respond to it. Great. Now send something in through mail, and then send something digitally also before, but then after as well. And you do it that way, and you're guaranteed to win more deals. Especially you beat the agents that didn't do that. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. There's so many different ways to skin a cat, and but we built another way.
No, that's awesome, Mark. Yeah, congrats on that. I mean, I think it's a really great tool. What, in your experience, because you've obviously trained tons of agents, agent yourself, what are the biggest mistakes that you've seen agents make going into a listing presentation?
Ah, a great one is you never send in the comps ahead of time. This is the number one mistake that we see agents make all the time. You send in comps before you've even had a chance to not only meet the seller, but also see the home. And why? Why do you never send in comps? Number one, you need to first understand what the seller thinks of their home, right? What does the seller think the price of the home is?
Yes.
Number two, you need to see the home. You can't comp out a home until you see the home. And now, in an area where homes are homogenous, which means they're all the same, they're the same condition, and a 4 bedroom means 4 bedroom, and you could guess what the home is going to look like, or maybe you can just do a Google Street View and see, and then be reasonably assured it's going to be the same thing. But in other areas where things are tricky, especially in the high end, right, where
Yeah.
people have made significant upgrades, um, they're larger homes. Maybe there's stuff in tax records that are not accounted for, like extra square footage. The upgrades, right? The quality of the upgrades matters. Maybe things like view can never really be accounted for, um, until you see it, right?
Right.
To see a home. And
Right.
location, right? Location. Things can vary, especially if you're in a city. where you go one block away, and you're in a different neighborhood. So sending comps in before you've seen the home is a huge no-no. And so that's why we recommend the pre-listing presentation be generically about you and your services. Nothing about the home in particular, value-wise, right? So that's number one. And number two, you need to talk to the seller, obviously, right? You need to see where their head is at. If they think their home is worth 10 million when it's really worth 8 million, or 3 million versus 2 million, you need to understand why. And you need to, you could be wrong, right? You could be wrong in your own valuation. But also the last thing you want to do is offend them and make them feel like you don't get the home, right?
Exactly.
So those are the two things. And then sometimes the seller understands their home is worth, 2 million, but they want 2.5, right? Maybe they understand that and they're just fishing, right? Because it's a hot market, for example. So you kind of need to understand the expectation of the seller, but you also need to see the home so you can provide really accurate analysis. So never send comps ahead of time. Never.
It's great advice, Mark. I love that. Okay. You couldn't have been more clear about that. So let me ask you a question. So you're sitting down with me. Okay, Mark, you're trying to win my business. You want to list my home. And I think my house is worth, to take your example, 2.5 million. And you think it's worth 2 million. How do you have that conversation, right? Where I'm like, because maybe I'm on a timeline where I'm like, hey, the market's hot. I don't know, let's break a record in my neighborhood, right? I don't care if it takes a little bit longer. How do you have that conversation with a prospective seller?
We always look at it this way. Do you care about your check or their check? Do you care about your check or their check? And you need to care about their check. You're a fiduciary to the seller. By law, you need to think about your client's interests, not your commission. And so if they want 2.5 million, you need to get them 2.5 million, and you need to try, right? And there's many millions of ways to handle this situation. But one, I always point to the data, right? Hey, they think their home's 2.5 million, but there's a home across the street that sold for 2.25 or 2 million or something like this. You just got to use the data to show them that, hey, this doesn't make sense. This comp is really hurting your value. And, you want to not only point to the data, but blame the data, right? You never want to blame the seller and think they're unrealistic. We've all had that before.
Yeah.
Dealing with unrealistic sellers who think their home is worth the most on the block. So you have to be very careful. I've messed up both ways, right? Where you think the home is worth much less, or worse, you think the home is ugly. Like you think the decorations in the home or the interior design is really bad. And we've all seen that, right? And unfortunately, it's an emotional thing. It's an insulting thing when you kind of tell them, hey, I don't think the furnishings in your home are going to work for the sale. I've lost many a listing by being a little too blunt or telling them they needed to stage or change things. So it's a very delicate matter. It's a very delicate matter to do that. Sorry, what was the other part of the question? I kind of lost my train of thought.
Oh, no, it's okay. It was just, I don't know that there was another part. I think you answered the question, right? Which is, good. How do you handle that? So, and I think, what's tough, Mark,
sorry.
Oh, go ahead. You got it?
Yeah, I got it. All right. So then the other way we would do it is, hey, let's take the listing. Take the listing. If they won't change, they want 2.5 million. The place is worth 2, right? And the way we would do it is, okay, let's take the listing. Let's try your price. So we would try the price, before you off market, right? You could do off market and test it off market and see what the reaction is. And it depends on your area now, but in San Francisco, you could put something in as coming soon into the MLS. And as long as you do that, you can then tell other people about it. So, but in these times where off market is kind of shunned or not allowed easily, then what you can do is just bring in some other colleagues, and we would preview the home for other agents and bring in other colleagues. Hey, come take a look at this. Give me your opinion.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the seller and say, hey, I brought in 5 other agents, and they said it's worth $2 million. Not me. I think it's worth $2.5 million, but these people said it's worth $2 million. And so you have to really be delicate about it. It's a very sensitive topic. Every seller thinks an agent is trying to sell it cheaper, and they also think that they're trying to sell it fast. Yes. So you need to combat that right away by doing reverse psychology, by saying, no, I'm trying to get you. You think it's 2.5? I think it's 2.6. I'm going to try to win 2.6 for you. So you have to really understand that sellers are already programmed to think that agents are trying to not get the highest price.
That's right.
All the time. So you need to do what the seller wants, and don't worry about your commission. If it takes 6 months to sell the home, don't worry, because what's going to happen is that seller is going to rave about you after, saying that this agent went above and beyond the call of duty, dealt with me. I was looking for an unrealistic price. And he or she went above the call of duty to do this. You're going to get a great referral. You're going to get tons more business after that, and a reputation for an agent that does the right thing. So that is how it's going to come back and pay itself off many times over.
Yeah.
Many times over. All right. Sorry. I didn't mean to
No,
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Not at all. Not at all. No, that was great, Mark. I appreciate that. Mark, I think we've covered everything today. If there's anything else you want to talk about, let's jump into it. But I love the product that you've built with Highnote. You're solving a real problem. You come into this with oodles of credibility, right? Like you've done this, you've built a brokerage, you've been, the top sales guy in a major market, and so you understand what it takes. Is there any words of wisdom or parting words for our agents you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I think one more scenario or use case I wanted to say was that agents are also using the tool to send offers. And why? This is an interesting topic. We didn't really talk about it a lot, but I'm going to say it quickly. When you send an offer in a competitive situation, especially, you are selling your buyer's offer. And the listing agent, they're also interviewing the buyer agent. They're saying, okay, is this buyer agent real? Is this buyer agent professional enough? Is this buyer agent know what they're doing? Is this buyer agent going to shepherd this deal to the end? Because that's what the listing agent's thinking. How competent is this buyer agent? So this tool, agents are using it to build and send offers through it. And you're presenting an offer, and it's not just price and terms. It's also ability to close, right? Who's on the other side of the deal? And so we've had agents, I don't know if you see my screen right now.
I do, I have it up right now.
Yeah, agents, it was not an initial use case of the tool. The initial use case of the tool was buyer and listing presentations. Agents started using it to deliver offers, and they're winning. They're beating stronger offers at times. Nothing where it's like 50,000 higher, but if it's close in price and they like the buyers more, we find that sellers are accepting those offers. And very often this is the difference maker, because your presentation is so much better and it looks great and you're able to convey the offer in a stronger way. Not only that, but the buyer agents that are using the tool are able to report back to their buyers, and they tell their buyers, hey, you know what? Nobody's reading the offer. They're not opening the offer and checking it out. I think we're too low. And they go back to the buyers and tell them, hey, I think we're too low. They're not looking at the offers, because you could see the analytics.
Right.
You could see like how many times people are clicking on pages. And so really powerful way of being able to report back to your buyers and telling them information about their offers. And so then a lot of times buyers would say, okay, great, that's great information, and they restate their offers and they win. So it's really powerful. That was the other thing that I wanted to say about the tool.
That's great.
Yeah. But
That's awesome. Well, Mark, thanks for being here today. Thanks for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom. Of course, the new tool that you've built, which I think is great. So everybody watching right now, definitely go check that out. It's still in private beta, but you can request access, and we'll leave that up to Mark to make the decision from there on out.
Absolutely.
Mark, yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of this information. I think this has been tremendous. Appreciate you taking time to be here today with us.
Thanks a lot, Randy. It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon, Mark.
Thanks.
If you want to keep getting tips, hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching, and we hope you get a lot out of this.